Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alyson Le Grange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. US President Joe Biden speaks to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, presses him on the urgency to bring the ceasefire and hostage deal to closure as talks resume in Cairo. China's military monitors and warns a U.S. destroyer as it sailed through the sensitive Taiwan Strait during a routine transit, upsetting Beijing. Bodies of all men, including UK tech tycoon Mike Lynch, have been recovered after a super luxury yacht sank off Sicily. Authorities continue to search for one woman. Canada's freight rail network shut down operations, locking out close to 10,000 workers after the country's two operators fail to reach labour agreements. And the Kenyan police announced cash reward for the information leading to the arrest of a suspected serial killer who escaped from a Nairobi police cell on Tuesday. Hello and welcome. Our top focus today is Nigeria, where citizens are fuming over what they call is their president's extravagance. Nigerian President Bola Tinubu has bought a new jet at a time when the country's economy is experiencing its worst crisis in a generation. The newly purchased Airbus A330 replaces a Boeing 737-700, now taking the number of aircraft in the president's fleet to over 5. President Bola Tinubu used his new jet to travel to France on the 19th of August, which his office says was a brief working visit. Social media users in Nigeria called President Bola Tinubu insensitive to the plight of average Nigerians. Some even called out the government for telling Nigerians to bear the economic hardship, while they themselves were busy paying cash for a new private jet. The president's purchase of a new jet comes less than a fortnight after thousands took to the streets across Nigeria, protesting against the rising cost of living and hunger. In defense, the president's office says the new jet will save Nigeria huge maintenance and fuel costs, running into millions of dollars each year. The government said the 19-year-old Boeing plane malfunctioned, and during the president's trip to Saudi Arabia in April of this year, the office also said the new aircraft was bought far below the market price. Now, Nigeria has not revealed the exact amount of money it used in purchasing the Airbus A330, a 15-year-old plane with elaborate configuration for VIPs. It is also furnished with state-of-the-art aviation electronics, customized interior, and communication system. The new presidential jet was released recently to the Nigerian government after it was seized by a Chinese firm which obtained a Paris court order to seize the Nigerian firm assets following a dispute with Nigeria's Ogun state. Nigerian media reports claim that the new jet was acquired from a German bank after the plane was repossessed from its West Asian owner who defaulted on his loan. Reports also claim this jet was purchased for $100 million. In June this year, Nigerian lawmakers recommended the purchase of 2 new aircraft for the president and also for his deputy, saying the old ones were not safe. Now, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu allegedly has a penchant for air travel, and this is despite tough economic conditions at home. So much so that he, along with Kenya's William Ruto, have been nicknamed the Flying President. Tinubu used his new jet to fly to Paris from Abuja on the 19th of August. He said his office has said that he was on a brief work stay in France. However, the reason for the visit has still not been disclosed. A meeting with either the French president or prime minister is certainly not on the agenda. This is Tinubu's fourth trip to France since assuming office in 2023. In fact, the latest trip to France came just 2 days after he returned from Equatorial Guinea. In the first 8 months of term, Bola Tinubu made 14 trips, an average of just under 2 a month. He reportedly spent at least $2.2 million on domestic and foreign travel in the first 6 months of his presidency, which was 36% more than the budgeted amount for 2023. The Nigerian opposition has often labeled President Tinubu as a tourist-in-chief. Now, as ordinary Nigerians face a tough economic battle, they have tougher questions for the president over spending, or rather splurging, public money. For more on this, we have with us Dr. Celestine Udiogu, a lecturer and political analyst who is joining us live from Nsukka in Nigeria. Thank you for being with us, Doctor. Moving on to our next story, staying on with West Africa, the junta-led nations of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger have dragged Ukraine to the United Nations, accusing Kiev of supporting terrorism. The military juntas of the 3 Sahel nations have written to the United Nations Security Council, asking it to denounce Ukraine's support for rebel groups in the region. They called on the Security Council to take appropriate actions against Ukraine's subversive acts, which they say strengthen terrorist groups in Africa. In July of this year, Mali troops and Russia's Wagner group suffered huge losses at the hands of Mali separatists. The ethnic Tuareg-led separatists killed 84 Wagner mercenaries and 47 Malian soldiers over days of fierce fighting in northern Mali. This is potentially Wagner's heaviest defeat in Africa since it entered the region to help the military governments fight Islamist insurgents. Ukraine's military intelligence agency claimed Kiev provided necessary information to the Mali separatists to carry out attacks against Russian war criminals. Mali had cut diplomatic ties with Ukraine in early August over the admission. Niger also followed suit days later in solidarity with its neighbor. Both nations accused Ukraine of direct involvement in the conflict and supporting terrorism. Ukraine has repeatedly denied the accusations, calling them groundless and untrue. It has said that it adheres unconditionally to the norms of international law. Ukraine called Mali and Niger's decision to sever ties short-sighted and hasty. Mali's separatist alliance has also said it did not receive any Ukrainian support. The military governments in West Africa have forged closer ties with Russia and have ditched the traditional Western allies, including the United States and France. After kicking the Western troops out, they have turned politically and militarily towards Russia for security cooperation. Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger also broke away from the regional grouping ECOWAS earlier this year and formed a new confederation, the Alliance of Sahel States. Meanwhile, Ukraine is also making a strategic push in Africa. It has opened multiple new embassies in the region and is strengthening bilateral and multilateral relations. Reports also suggest Ukraine and Russia are supporting the 2 warring sides in Sudan's civil war. And most African nations have avoided taking sides in the Russia-Ukraine war. But these attempts to play a proxy war suggest that the conflict in Europe has spilled over to Africa. And more developments coming in from West Africa. It appears the months-long dispute between neighbours Benin and Niger has settled. Landlocked Niger has resumed crude oil exports to Benin via a China-backed pipeline. As per reports, a Liberian-flagged crude oil tanker had loaded around 1 million barrels of oil from Niger at the Benin port on Tuesday. The vessel is bound for China, where it is reportedly due to arrive on the 10th of October. The oil flow was halted after tensions erupted between the two neighbours following the military coup in Niger last year. After the coup, ECOWAS member Benin threatened sanctions and military intervention in Niger. Niamey, in response, closed borders that halted the imports between the two neighbours, and Benin then blocked Niger's access to its ports, which is crucial for its landlocked nation for oil export via the China-built pipeline. Nearly 2,000 kilometers long, the pipeline runs through the oil fields in Niger to Benin's Seme port. It was designed to help the oil-rich Niger achieve a nearly five-fold increase in oil production through a $400 million deal signed in April with a Chinese firm. As per reports, Niger is supposed to repay the Chinese firm with crude oil shipments within 12 months at an interest rate of 7%. But the pipeline faced several operational challenges, including the dispute between Niger and Benin. Despite the ECOWAS lifting its sanctions and Benin agreeing to give Niger its port access, Niamey refused to allow imports from Benin. The pipeline also faced security threats. Niger's rebel groups fighting the junta have attacked the pipeline, prompting China to suspend its construction. But a major turning point came in July when Niger's military junta agreed to open talks with Benin's government, following the mediation of two former presidents of Benin. However, it is not clear how the dispute has now been resolved to allow Niger's oil exports to resume. But the oil exports will help Niger's economy. Niger currently has a local refining capacity of only 20,000 barrels per day for local demands, while the pipeline can export up to 90,000 barrels daily. Officials and analysts have said that this would help the country increase its revenue and emerge from the coup sanctions that have hurt its economy and people. The World Bank had projected that the West African nation's economy would rebound and grow at the fastest in Africa this year, with oil export as a key boost. And finally, to our special segment, Resurgent Africa. Amid the coups and the crises, there are many positive stories from Africa that often get overlooked, but not on this show. Our story today is from Libya. In the heart of Libya's conservative society, 22-year-old Asawar Mustafa is defying all odds. She is armed not with a degree or a traditional career, but with a wrench and an unbreakable will. She is challenging gender stereotypes by working as a mechanic in the conservative city of Misrata. With each oil filter that she inspects and each car that she repairs, Mustafa is breaking the shackles of doubt and societal norms. Our final story gets you all the details.
Women have journeyed far in today's world. They have been carving out spaces and staking claims in every imaginable field. But despite their remarkable achievements, certain professions still conjure the image of a man in the minds of many. Roles like electricians, plumbers and mechanics remain stereotypically male-dominated, where the thought of a woman in such a job is for some still unimaginable. Yet Asawar Mustafa, a 22-year-old Sudanese refugee living in Libya, is courageously defying these outdated notions. With a wrench in her hand and a cap perched over her hijab, she's challenging gender norms in the conservative and traditional Libyan city of Misrata. In a place where being a mechanic is often seen as a man's job, Mustafa is breaking barriers as she inspects oil filters and interacts with the garage's female clientele. Her story is one of quiet but resolute determination. Mustafa's journey wasn't always paved with dreams of engines and wrenches. In Sudan, she was on the path to become a pharmacist, living a peaceful life and pursuing her degree. But the eruption of war in April 2023 between the Sudanese army under Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the paramilitary rapid support forces changed everything. Fleeing her home country in search of safety, she recalls those days as the darkest of her life. When Mustafa arrived in Libya with her 4 sisters, mother and brother, survival was her only concern. To survive, she knew she needed to work, no matter the job. Today, she finds herself in the women-only section of a garage in western Libya, while her brother works in the men's section of the same shop. Doubts and fear plagued Mustafa early on. She worried about the possibility of damaging a client's car, and these insecurities gnawed at her. Society also weighed in, whispering that her hands were better suited for a spatula than a wrench. But Mustafa persevered, honing her skills and gaining confidence with each passing day. Once she became confident in her abilities, there was no looking back. She had one goal in mind: to secure a job and survive.
There's nothing difficult about it, but at the beginning, when it's the first time, there was the possibility of making mistakes and the possibility of damaging the woman's car. But I had enough confidence in myself to take that step and do it.
Today, Mustafa welcomes female drivers from across the city with an air of assurance. Her presence as a female mechanic not only empowers her, but also provides comfort to her female clients. They feel at ease interacting with her in a way they might not with a male mechanic. With the number of female drivers in the city on the rise, many are grateful to have someone they can approach without feeling intimidated.
More and more women are driving in Libya. They feel comfortable and reassured when they come here, where they deal with women.
But no woman, no matter how capable or confident, walks this path alone. Mustafa's resilience and success are strengthened by the support she receives from her younger brother and the shop owner where she works. Her brother stands by her side, always ready to lend a hand.
I encouraged her every time I came to see her. I told her that if she needed anything in this area, I would be there for her. I could see what she could do. There were times when she needed help. For example, she'd ask, "How do you do this? How do you do that? And what do you think of that?" So I'd tell her that it was a good idea, as she would be living new experiences, and that I would support her in any way she needs.
While the shop owner firmly believes that the field of mechanics should no longer be the sole domain of men.
Here we change oil and wash cars, and it's a service offered by women. We hope to extend the service to bodywork, brake pads, and air conditioning. This should not be seen as a job for men only. Women may want to work in this area and may want to organize their own business. Nowadays, no field is only for men anymore.
Asawar Mustafa is not just fixing cars, she's fixing society's narrow perceptions of what women can achieve. In a world that often tries to confine women to certain roles, Mustafa's journey is a powerful reminder that no job is out of reach and no dream is too big. Her courage is inspiring a new generation of women to step into roles they once thought impossible, proving that when women are given the tools to succeed, they can truly change the world.
And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Hello, welcome to Fast and Factual. My name is Utsaf Parekh, and here are the top stories of the day. The Israeli military